What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We've got an amazing guest, personal friend of mine. I've been working with him for the past, 2 or 3 years now or so. His name is Tyler Graves. He's the founder and president of Ready Stays. And what we're going to get into in this show is basically everything that you really need to know to honestly launch and scale your business. He takes us back to the very first time when he first started. He was a one-man show, and he was able to scale this company to quite a lot. And he's actually been able to go 4x as well. And I'm talking like also we're going to get into ups and downs, peaks and valleys on the story of actually scaling this company. You're not going to want to miss this. You're going to want to really watch this show. Basically, it's all you need to know as an entrepreneur. Tyler Graves at Ready Stays. Let's get into it right now in 3, in 2, in 1. But first, like, subscribe, and follow this page because you're going to want to see a lot of this content. All right, let's take you there now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. We are here with a little self-conscious right now because it's the first time that he is in a studio. Tyler Graves, founder and president of Ready Stays.
Thank you, Vince. Good to be here. Happy to be here.
Are you okay?
I'm great.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Worrying about your posture
Well,
and everything
the
else.
chair
You got your notes in front of you. You're the first guest. First of all, you're the first guest to be on the show 3 times. Second of all, you're the first guest with your own iPad. Are you sure you're good? Are you ready to go?
I'm honored.
Okay. Are
I'm
you ready
honored.
to rock and roll?
I love the whole reticulating arm, and it feels great.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
happy to be here.
I want to get right into it, but before I do, I always like to ask my guests if you could please briefly tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. So my name is Tyler Graves. I'm the founder and president of Ready Stays Furnished Housing. We are a midterm corporate and insurance housing company based in Tampa, Florida. We service people that are looking to move between homes, people that have been displaced by damage to their home that need somewhere for a few months at a time. We do sports athletes as well, guys that get traded, they need somewhere for a month or two. We're not short-term rentals, so we're not like in the vacation rental space, and we're not long-term traditional rentals where you have like a 12-month lease or an apartment or something. We live in between that. So we allow flexible lease terms, fully furnished rentals, utilities are included, very often no security deposits, and you stay as long as you need to. You give typically a 14 or a 30-day notice to vacate, and you're allowed to kind of go as you need to. So believe it or not, it is a pretty large need across the country when you consider how many people are displaced by damage, fire, flood, things of that nature. And then also people that get moved for work, right? Executives that get relocated, they get a promotion. Now we want you at the corporate office, that kind of a thing. And so where do they go? Where do they stay while they're securing more permanent housing or buying their own home? So we find ourselves living in that space.
What would you say is the top target, or not the top target, but what's the most common kind of
in our business
customer?
right now?
Yeah.
I would say it's insurance. So
Really?
yeah, we really kind of catapulted and went national about 2 years ago. Right around this time, in fact, so about the summer of 2023.
It's right when you met me. How about that?
That was, I'd say it's probably was right around there, maybe the fall a little bit later. But yeah, we had been a local brand and company for about 2 solid years, 2 or 3 solid years. We've really been in business since 2018, but I'd say as a really good, strong local brand up to that point, about 2 or 3 years. And it was great serving the Tampa market, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, the suburbs, those areas. And it was around that time, and we can go into more detail with that, but decided to kind of pivot the company and look nationally and be able to serve customers, not just in the Central Florida area, but around the country. And I can kind of go into what that model looks like. It did allow us to grow our company significantly. We still, of course, have a fair amount of inventory and manage a lot of our own rentals in Central Florida, but we are a national company.
Well, before we get into that, because you were able to go 4x pretty quickly here, which is pretty freaking cool. And there's definitely things that I want to talk about, but could you please explain? Because I always feel like I'll have conversations with you and I'm just like, in my head, I'm just like, how do you make it all work? Like, how are you able to have somebody, let's say I get displaced for some reason, I call you, how are you able, and I still refer you to this day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How are you able to find a place so fast for somebody to go ahead and move in? Like, how does that all work? What kind of deals do you have structured with these homeowners, or not the ones that are displaced? I mean, the actual owners of the apartment buildings or the apartments itself. Like, how does that all work?
Right. It's a very intricate system because it's funny is, and I say this a lot, we are in the position, our account managers are in the position of certainly selling the family on, hey, we want to move you into this property. But I would argue more than that, we're in the business of selling owners, right? On the kind of company that we are and the fact that we're going to treat your property right. We're going to inspect your property. We're going to make sure you're paid on time. We're going to make sure that overall you have a great experience, that it is relatively hands-off for you in the time that we have a lease with you. You know, a lot of homeowners, they get the impression like, oh, I can just list my property with Ready Stays and then they'll just put in insurance claims and, you know, sports athletes and I'll just make a ton of money. We don't do traditional property management in that we don't hold your property kind of indefinitely and then take a sort of cut from that while we put people in there. We're almost borrowing your property for that fixed period of time. So
Are
whether
you
it's
paying anything like while you borrow the property?
well, we're paying them rent. We're paying them fair
Got
rental
it.
value. We're paying them what they want. And in many cases, depending on the market and supply and demand, we're paying above what they're asking because it is going to be a shorter lease, right? So we'll do deals, and you know, the Northeast in particular is very, you know, it's just a bit more old school. There's more realtors and brokers involved. There's more deals, kind of that whole sort of flavor is involved in that. And so we'll do deals where it's listed for a 12-month lease and we'll have to work with a property management company or work with the private owner and say, hey, we've got a displaced family here. We're only looking for about 3 months. Let's talk terms. And so to be able to have that conversation very quickly and build their trust very quickly so they know our company, they know our social brand, they know we're going to treat their property right. And then, of course, to then go and sell the actual family that's going to go take a tour and say, hey, we're going to live here for 3 to 6 months. The big reason we went national is because the insurance claims are national, right? I mean, they're everywhere. And so we get owners that reach out to us and they say, hey, I have a property in Houston and when can you get somebody in there? It's like everything's on a very claim by claim basis. And as you know, in dealing with policyholders, they want something like, kind, and quality. Yeah. I'm coming from a 4-bedroom house with a fenced in yard. I don't want to be driving more than 20 minutes. I got to stay in my school district for my 2 kids. And so we're having to secure that type of property. So it's very, very specific.
How do you handle vacancy? Like, I mean, you're waiting on a catastrophic event or you're waiting on a big move in somebody's life. Like I used to call public adjusting the shit hits the fan industry. I'm not saying that you're in that industry, but I mean, you're in that kind of industry where you're waiting for that person or that homeowner to call you and say, hey, I need a place. Like, how do you handle vacancy when you own a property that's just kind of sitting empty? What do you do with that?
Well, we don't own the property, right? So more often than not, insurance claims.
Or you're renting a property.
Exactly, right. So more often than not, insurance claims, they need to move in within, you know, the next week or so, right? They're displaced, they're in a hotel, or they're still in their home and they're waiting on, you know, a rental so that the contract can actually begin the work on their home. And so they need to move in usually within like a week or max 2 weeks. So we're finding that relationship with that homeowner or that apartment, and we're moving somebody in within about a week or so. And we're saying, hey, your home right now is vacant or vacant indefinitely. We want to put somebody in there. Here are the terms that we have. Here are the protections that we have. Here is the insurance coverage, renter's insurance, damage insurance, all that stuff that we carry. And then to convince that homeowner and say, yeah, this is a good deal. Like, I got a vacancy right now. And then when that family moves out, we obviously give them a notice like, hey, their work will be done in the next 30 days or 14 days. We are now going to vacate the property on this date. And so now they can go, great, I'll relist my property, and they can try to get another renter.
So you're not renting it long term
No.
and then leaving it and waiting for somebody to move in.
Correct.
As soon as the homeowner or as soon as the person gets displaced,
Correct.
then you go on the hunt and you look for a property that's
Correct.
vacant, that's
Exactly.
looking for somebody to rent their property long term, and then you work out and negotiate a deal for however long you think you're going to need it for.
Exactly. Yeah. So I say the word borrowing. We're kind of saying, hey, Vince, you have a property. It's vacant, you know, right now, that's the beginning of August. Let's say it's going to be vacant August 10th. After you've got it cleaned and ready, we like it. Can we have our family be there for at least 3 months and then going month to month after that? Or can we put our athlete in there month to month until the season ends, and we'll give you a 30-day notice. You have enough time to relist the property. You know, again, it's that midterm space.
Got it.
So you have a prediction on when we're moving out. But you also know you have guaranteed cash flow for that period. You're not going to have issues with payment. You're not going to have issues with, you know, again, we also can be sort of that buffer with the family. If the family's going through an issue and, oh, I'm not happy, the toilet's backed up, this, that, like there's a professionalism quality to that owner experience than just dealing with maybe a tenant directly.
You're the direct contact with the owner. You're like, you're the in-between also between the tenant and the owner.
Yeah, and very often we will have to set up utilities under our name. We'll have to, set up furniture, right? Because most of these homes that come, or apartments that come unfurnished. So we've got a whole network of furniture providers that we work with and getting them set up, getting them torn down, setting up utilities, removing utilities, handling deposits, handling all the payments. That's what our whole back end administrative, delivery part of our office does. And the biggest thing I think for owners is that, we bear the risk and the responsibility of that lease, right? So if there is damage, the biggest thing, I've talked to numerous owners where they say, yeah, I did a deal with an adjuster with insurance a couple of years ago and it ended horribly. I got no notice. The family destroyed my place and I couldn't get my deposit, or I couldn't get any money from the family, or they ruined the place above what the deposit was. And so we then have to say, well, listen, we're a company, look us up, and we're going to make sure that we pay you. We are rent responsible. We're responsible for damages. We're responsible to make sure that people are criminally background checked and aren't sex offenders and aren't going to be sitting there smoking. And so we have all these kind of checks and balances in place to make sure that that owner experience is really good, which is how, because we have great references, because we have a great brand, we can get property so quickly.
I call that social capital.
Exactly.
Whatever
Yeah,
it is,
goodwill,
how
social capital.
how the community views your company.
Yeah, because very often, and we'll get these sometimes from adjusters and brokers, is that a family will say, hey, I really like this property. And then they'll go to the owner and say, I want to rent this for 3 months. And they're like, so who's paying? Well, my insurance is paying. And so I got to do a screening on you. And what's your, what happens if your insurance, is all these questions that an owner, it's kind of outside of the normal application screening protocol for most traditional rents.
Well, it also takes away from the burden of having to find a place after you've been displaced where you take care of that. How do you do that? How do you find a place so fast?
It's through those relationships. We have multiple account managers. In fact, we're bringing someone on in the next 2 weeks, another person that's been in the industry for over, 10 or 15 years. And, to say that it's processes, it's systems, it's attentiveness.
But is it is it direct owners of these properties, or are you dealing with some property managers? Are you dealing with building owners? Are you
both?
dealing
all
a little
of the
bit
above,
of everything?
right? So we'll have to, if it's a smaller family, 2 adults and a kid and a dog or something, we'll try to default to an apartment, because apartments, mid to luxury apartments, are great. They're secure. They're usually in very, better neighborhoods. There's also there's not a lot of variability, right? You know what you're getting. There's amenities, there's security.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of it's a very sort of standard kind of thing. Private owners, you get different temperaments. You get different flavors of private owners. You get people that are very high strung, type A. I want to know what's going on. Where's, it's 4:00 on the 1st of August. Where's my money? It's sort of things like that.
You probably deal with that a lot too, because people want to go and they want to move into a single family home.
Yeah. I would say right now with our insurance business specifically, it's probably 70% private owners. 70,
Sure.
and it's funny. You think, well, aren't all these private equity companies buying up, massive swaths of land and big property management companies and owning all these single family homes?
No.
Someone gave me a statistic the other week, and it's it's still like 70%, and it may even be higher than that, of homes, single families in America, are owned by private people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
they might have an association, a small association to pay or something like that, but for the most part, it's them that
and
owns
investors. They own townhomes or condos or single family homes. A lot of it. That's been the trend in America for decades. It's like buy property and you've got depreciation and there's all these sort of things to save on taxes and everything. And it's like people want to do that. They want to invest in property. And so we find ourselves very often working with private owners or, through their surrogates, which are their property managers.
So your what did you call it? Who's the relationship manager? What was it? The
account manager.
Account manager has to be very personable.
Correct.
Because they're talking directly to some of these owners and having to be kind of a salesperson too, right?
Exactly. And we have a very organized script.
They're like, who are you?
Well, that's the first thing, right? So, and you have to be able to build trust on that initial call. So I was the first account manager.
Okay.
So when we, went down this path and really started going after the national business and finding ourselves having to really source and get a lot of single family homes, well, it was yours truly that was, having those conversations and hearing their objections. And then at some point, it's like you're getting the same objections, the same questions. Well, but how is it going to be paid? Or who's the insurance company? Or what happens if? All the what happens ifs and the conditions and all that stuff.
Put it on a document.
Exactly, right? And so we've created a page make it a simple URL. Hey, here's how our program works.
FAQs.
Yeah, FAQs. Here's some reference, I mean, whatever they would need. And I would say, I mean, does it happen every now and then where an owner or manager will say, hey, we're not going to do this deal. We
Mhm.
can't work with you. It does, right? But I think that's in the minority. And if it happens, that's fine. We just move along, and we've certainly come across, as I would call them, snakes, or people that hear the word insurance and they go, oh, I can charge more, or they retrade. They say, hey, here's the rent. We get the approval, and they say, actually, there's an additional $250 and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, so you have to, it's their property,
Mhm.
right? They can kind of set the terms. So there's a negotiation, there's a relationship, there's a trust factor you have to.
Oh, you have to negotiate with them too, right?
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll sit there and you'll see a limit, and you're like, this just won't work for this family.
Right.
But then that this owner wants to get their property filled, and so at the end of the day, we're not in the negotiation business to have a loser. We understand that the owner's experience has to be good, because that owner will tell others, or we will have to go back to that owner in the future. We've had to go back to owners before for their properties or other properties that they own or manage. And we have to know that we had a good relationship with them and say, hey, like, we want to use you again. And they can say, no, we're not interested.
So you really have two types of customers.
Exactly.
You have the landlords, right?
Mhm.
And then you have the tenants.
Exactly. Yeah. The
Interesting.
families. Yeah. And so we are in many ways selling both. And those account managers have to be, it's in many ways, they are managers. They're managers of personalities. They're managers of temperament. They're managers of emotions. I mean, I personally, still very, very often do sales, and especially national sales. And I have people crying on the phone with me, like their home just burned down 4 days
Mhm.
ago. And they're
Right.
like, I'm in a hotel. I've got 3 kids. We're squashed in this little suite, and I just can't figure this out. And you've got to, you know, be there for them and say, hey, we're going to get you through this and get you to a win. And when they do get moved in and they do get settled, it's a beautiful thing.
Tell me the story of Ready Stays. Like, how did you start? How long has it been around, and what's the story?
So we started we started in basically the spring of 2018. And it was an interest on my part in getting into the real estate space in general. I had been working with a couple of realtors, and I had a realtor that said, I have a lot of people that
Displaced.
they're between homes, right? They need to, they're waiting on their, a lot of like new development in the Tampa area, like Riverview, Waimama, Wesley Chapel. And they're like, hey, they need to sell their home so they can get the equity out so they can then pay for their new home. Or if they're in the middle of building, there's a delay for a month or two. And so that kind of gave me the idea, well,
The need.
yeah, I was like, well, I can just set up a rental. So funny enough, while we do in Tampa, we do almost entirely work with apartment buildings. The very first rental we did was in Valrico, and it was a
Okay.
townhome, and it was owned by this Russian lady. And it was me. I was on, Zillow and Realtor.com, just calling people and saying, hey, here's what I do. And, will you work with me? And I'm looking, I'll rent it for a year. At that point, it was more like kind of traditional management. We're going to put various people in there on a month-to-month basis. And it was just, no, who are you? I didn't have a website. I was just this guy calling.
So
And
you did go like Zillow. You
yeah,
went straight up just like that.
yeah, Zillow,
Yeah.
Realtor.com, Redfin, whatever. And this particular realtor, and what was funny is he actually never sent me any business. So I set up a rental, and then of course I set up more rentals, and I would reach out to him. Hey, I got a couple of rentals. You have clients? Oh yeah, I'm working with a few. And it never ended up working out. But I would say that his advice and suggestion got that spark
Mm-hmm.
to then get that one rental set up. And my very first tenant was a guy named Cookie. He was an electrician from North Carolina, and Cookie was the man. He stayed with us for about 6 months, and he was doing some new construction in the Valrico, Brandon, Riverview area. And it was great. He loved it. We set up furniture. He was there. He, paid rent, and everything went smoothly. His company took care of things. And then that was like, well, this is going well. Why don't I work on some other places? And then I reached out to apartments, and then realized there's a whole industry
Right.
called corporate housing, and then became a part of that industry. And kind of, so a lot of people start companies like this that came from similar companies.
Mhm.
And I kind of came at it from a different angle, right? Kind of more of a real estate entrepreneur, very interested. Hey, let's just get into the dirty of this and figure it out as you go along, which was different. And I think I came to it with a more with a fresh perspective rather than, hey, I'm coming from this corporate housing company, I'll just cookie cutter do something similar. I think that may have been what made the company a bit more unique.
Did you work in a company with corporate housing?
No,
No.
never did. I was doing HR and business management consulting, and then Ready Stays was kind of my side gig for a year or two. And then COVID hit, and there was a lot of demand in Central Florida, people moving from the Northeast and kind of over the country. And that's when the local market sort of took off. And then in the summer of 23, COVID was sort of over, right? And then all the requests kind of stopped. And it was like, well, we got to readjust our inventory here and figure this out. Because in Tampa, we do hold leases long term. We furnish them, we keep them, we put people behind them. And so we do bear a bit more risk in Tampa, Central Florida, St. Pete, because we hold those leases. So if we have vacancy, like you mentioned earlier, then we got problems. So I'd like to think that we designed the company to minimize any possibility of vacancy, even during what would be considered the off season in Florida, which is actually like now, right? August through, call it November, right? Basically up to about the middle of December. And then I think, of course, things are crazy, end of December all the way through maybe April.
Right.
You've got spring training, you've got a lot of athletes, NFL combine that are here. You got, people that just snowbirds, all those folks. But we've managed to really control our inventory and have good clientele that come back to us.
Take me back to 2018, 2019. We're going to get into the Forex growth. I definitely want to get more into that. But 2018, 2019, brand new industry. This is something that you had no experience in. What were some of the things that you did to really just get rolling and get going?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that there's a certain risk tolerance you have to have. I think at the time I was 30, 31, and I was just hungry. I mean, I don't think there's another way to say, if you want it bad, you'll figure it out. And that goes for any business, of course. But I think that it was me. I didn't have a mentor, I don't think. I mean, I certainly think that my father was inspiration to, he's been a business owner for 30 or 40 years.
Seems like you educated yourself a lot too on the whole industry as well.
Yeah. I mean, kind of learning along the way. And then I don't necessarily recommend it, but a lot of pitfalls and finding out what went wrong, and let's not do that again. And let's make sure we put these screening protocols in place, and let's make sure that we don't go after this type of, client type. We only go after, real people that would be a better fit for corporate housing or insurance housing, and kind of defining what that segment is that we're going after. That was a huge one, but a lot of it is just trial and error. And I think it could have been done certainly at the beginning a bit more methodically, but
what did the team look like back then?
It was me. It was me for about the first 2 years. I think we hired our first employee. My wife's been involved in the business.
You better give a shout out to your wife.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 100%.
Hello.
Yeah, I mean, I will
take
say,
all the credit here, Tyler. Careful.
That's why I say we, by the way. I will say that she, I like to think, certainly I'm business smart. I know numbers. I track things. I'd like to think I'm a very good sales guy and can build those relationships and whatnot. But my wife is by far extremely intuitive, far more intuitive than I am in terms of personalities and being able to read people and know, when someone's a flight risk and, that kind of a thing.
Oh,
I mean,
they are very good at that. I say my wife too. I was going to say women in general, maybe not, but my wife as well.
Yeah. I mean, she'll meet somebody, if we hired someone new that she maybe wasn't involved
not
with.
going to work out.
And she'll say like, I don't know if she's going to be sticking around that long.
Yeah.
And I'll go, no. She's been here for a couple weeks now. It seems like she's settled in well. And she's like, okay.
No.
And then 3 weeks later.
As soon as I say, oh, but he's such a great guy, he's so nice, her red flags just start going up immediately.
Yeah. So she was, very intimately involved in bringing on our first hire. She's still with the company. And she was promoted within the company, and she's doing very well. And I think, the company we have a lot of benefits, right? We've got health insurance, dental and vision. We allow for a hybrid. It's a, remote work from home plus coming to the office. We have a nice office. It's an open floor plan. People can come in. There's Wi-Fi.
I have not been invited to the office, by the way.
You're always welcome.
I'm just telling
you come by next week when you're not doing podcasts all week. Come by, say hi, meet the staff.
Systems, processes, operations, marketing, sales. What am I missing there?
Well, we're a relationship business.
What would you say was again, you were a one-person show.
Yeah.
With the help of your wife, obviously. But what would you say was the sort of, if we could put it into an order that you slowly scaled the business, which is going to lead me now to my follow-up question is going to be, what was it that you were just like, all right, let's do this, and you
Yeah.
were able to do the 4x? But leading up to that, what were you say if there was a ladder and each rung is like the next step that you were doing? What would you say that you had in your head, like the vision you had in your head of implementing everything little by little?
So great question. I would say that it starts with the way it kind of built incrementally was I did the work. I did the work. I did the scheduling. I did the invoicing. I did the I didn't do the cleanings necessarily, but although sometimes I would have to, I did the turnover inspections, making beds. And so by me doing the work, I go, okay, this has worked well. This system has worked well. This software implementation has worked well. Now I'm going to create a process around it. And then I'm going to hire somebody to then do it.
Mm-hmm.
What I
Perfect.
don't see has worked is you say, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble in this area. I'm just going to hire somebody. They're going to figure it out. They've got experience with this kind of software or something similar. Hey, Joe, you're hired. Hey, just figure out this whole scheduling thing.
Right.
Because Joe's like, but you're the boss, man.
Yep.
Like, what am I like? Is this right?
And then
Am I
you get
doing
mad
this
at
right?
Joe, you fire Joe, and it's not Joe's fault.
Right. He didn't work it out. Why?
Yeah.
He should have known. He should have been able to, intuit what the proper
Right.
answer would be and
Right.
that kind of a thing. So I don't say you do want to give employees a bit of leeway for creativity and flexibility. But when you set those rails and you say, hey, here's the process. And if they want to add to it or make some revisions
Yes.
to it, I'm all ears.
Give them ownership of it.
Give them ownership
Yeah.
of it. Right. Yeah. And we've done that with our property coordinators. They are the guys that take over when we've sold a new relationship with an owner or an apartment and that family. They are now the point of contact, and they handle everything. I mean, they do all the lease signing, they coordinate the payments, they set up the utility, they do all of that, and they have complete ownership of that account or that property, that experience, from the moment it comes on their desk to the moment they eventually move out. It wasn't like that in the beginning, right? When we went national, it was like we siloed things. We said, you're the setup person. You're the person that handles housekeeping and furniture. You're the person that handles the teardown. You're the person that handles the billing. And it was just like a lot of finger pointing, right? It was like the Scarecrow, the Wizard of Oz. It was just like, well, no, but I told blah, 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 but he didn't do that. And the moment we said, no, we're going to have it be the one person
Account manager,
outside
yeah.
if they're on PTO or something, that file can go to somebody else. That person, that property coordinator, handles the whole experience. So if something goes wrong, hey, what happened, right? We want to go, where was the
You
fall
still
down
have
there?
it siloed, but everything goes to the property.
Yeah, it's siloed by person. And so each person can take on between, like, I'd say 25 to 35 properties at any given time. So they're coordinating, they're managing it, they're handling maintenance, they're doing all that, because it's a very high touch point business, right? These are month to month rentals. They're not like they're in there for a year, then they're, turning over every couple of years. They're in there for a month, they're in there for 3 months, 6 months, and then they're out.
Seems like the property, I keep butchering the name, the
Coordinator?
property coordinator.
Or account manager is on the sales side.
Got it.
It gets then flipped over to the property coordinator
Got
once
it.
it's sold, and they're the ones that kind of manage the whole experience from that point forward.
Got it. Got it. What kind of people are you looking for those two roles?
So
I'm assuming you do some kind of assessments and stuff like
yeah.
that, because these
yeah.
people, that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of, you got to have people skills. You have to have a high attention to detail. You got to have a little bit of everything.
You do. And referrals have been great. We've had a number of our employees that have come on have been referrals, right? They've been, hey, I've worked with this person, in the past at another company for 2 or 3 years. I vouch for them. We do an interview, take it to the next step. I will say that for the property coordinator role, the biggest thing, because again, these are not properties that we're managing indefinitely, where we know the ins and outs of that neighborhood, of that market, of that owner, of that apartment community. We have to, there is so much variability by owner, by area, some of the local laws and, all that kind of stuff. We need somebody who can intuit what the right answer might be to not lose the company money and to keep the owner happy and to keep the occupants, right? The actual guest or the end client happy, right? And that's a bit of a juggling act, right? So to find the right person that can do that and to have, good company benefits, make somebody want to work for the company and then give them, move out of their way. Don't micromanage. I don't think that we micromanage. We've got software in place with checklists so that we can kind of dive in and look at the detail of things and say, hey, this step hasn't been done, and really pinpoint something versus, well, I never got the email, that kind of, we never want the finger pointing or the I never gots. And when we do identify a problem, we can see it in the documentation.
How big is the company now? How many people now?
I think today we had our 13th person start.
Awesome.
I just came from the office, and so she started this morning.
Lucky 13.
Lucky 13. Heck yeah. And then we have a new account manager coming on in 2 weeks, I think, from today or yesterday. And so I think that brings the company up to 14 if you include myself.
So from 2023
We
to
had 3
now,
people.
you have 4x is what you told me, right?
Yes. Yeah.
2020 was a great time for you, right? Because
Yeah.
of COVID and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Built a
Obviously,
local model.
so tell me what happened. You start to see things start to slow down. So 2023 comes around and you're like, we need to do something. So you're telling me that the 4x growth came from a negative time,
It came from a negative
which
time.
is very, very typical.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened and how you've got to this 4x growth. What are this? And I also tell me the story, but then I also want to know, specifically, what are some of the things that you've implemented that you've done?
Yeah, and I'll preface it by saying that we have the choice, right? As business owners, as executives, as entrepreneurs, really anybody, and this can be both professional and personal. We have the choice on how we interpret what's in front of us. So if we can see a problem in front of us, we have the choice to interpret that as something negative and to take that away as negative and to be the victim of that thing, or we have the choice to use it as a learning opportunity to then either turn things around, to improve something, or to pivot and find a new way. And I would say in the course of entrepreneurship, and certainly when you're at the beginning of starting a company, you're constantly hitting these walls.
Well, it's what is it? It's a series of negative things followed by just a couple of good things.
Yeah.
And it's a series of negative things.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I say that it is
It's peaks and valleys.
it is peaks and valleys, and it's a perpetual sacrifice and suffering punctuated by moments of joy.
Sounds very stoic of you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I was having brunch with a friend of mine a few weeks ago, and we were both kind of coming to that realization together. And it was a interesting, like almost like a light bulb. And I don't mean it to say like that life is all about, being miserable and suffering, but I do think that as they say, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Mhm.
And fear, again, can both be personal, it can both be professional, it can be, I've really always wanted to do this, but it's the buts. It's but I don't have it. But because my kid's this, but
Negative
because
beliefs, limiting beliefs.
right. And I would say that I could have interpreted that time, and I don't know what happened, but I think ultimately what happened was everywhere else in the country opened up, and Florida was on just a rager for, pretty much every major city in Florida was just, everybody was moving here. Interest rates were very low. People were buying up things. People were building things. It was like we couldn't, the phones were just going and going. And we had stuff that I was like, man, I'm surprised we're able to get somebody, in there, to backfill a place when we didn't intend on backfilling it because of that kind of property or something. And then, yeah, it seemed like July and August of 23, it just like just died out. It's like, what happened? Like, there's no, and then our whole model was all inbound leads, right? And then when whatever had changed with the demand, that wasn't happening. There were a few months there where it was like, we got to figure something out. Because again, in the local Central Florida market, we're holding these leases. We're still paying utilities. If a place is empty, we're still paying for furniture. We're still paying for utilities. We're still paying for rent and all that stuff. And so necessity is the mother of invention, is the other thing. So certainly could have crawled into a hole and said, hey, this isn't it. And I think I need to change this business. And, maybe we got to find something else. And I think that in my earlier years, that may have been the mindset. But when you've got a wife and a mortgage and pressure and at the time, a handful of employees, you find a way. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that pressure inspires.
Not to simplify things, but it seems like you moved from more of a operational role in making sure, which was a great opportunity for you. You had inbound leads. You didn't have to worry too much about sales. So now you could really focus on closing and then really, really tightening up all the systems and processes. And now when you went through this dip here where inbound leads weren't going is when I met you and you became the freaking sales guy. You were like, and you still are, but like you were out there just generating sales. So which is now developed into the sales department basically of your company.
Yeah. Yeah. We decided to really, I decided to really go after more relationships, more corporate relationships. And that was relationships with insurance housing. That was relationships with other companies that do what we do that aren't in our market so that we can work off of each other. And then just companies in general. And that was either through inbound leads or just through
Public adjuster YouTubers,
guys named Vince, things like that. And I think that was a big pivot point. I don't think I would have come up with that model. I think I would have just been kind of cruising
Sure.
along in the local. Hey, we're great. We're the most reviewed and highest rated furnished housing company on Google in all of Florida. We've got great reviews. We get a lot, Chat GPT apparently now is recommending us. I mean, we ask people all the time, hey, how did you hear about us? Well, I asked Chat GPT, what's the best furnished housing company in
Pretty
Tampa?
funny.
Boom, Ready Stays came up. So I'm like, wow, that's,
Have you
great.
filled that role? That role that you were basically out there getting after, building relationships, doing everything?
Well, yes, we did bring on a business development manager.
Nice.
So, and I still, as the president of the company, I still do a fair amount of travel. I'd say I'm usually somewhere in a different state at least once every month or every other month, seeing a client, doing an office visit, bringing people into our office, doing things like that. So it's more of that I want to be doing. I still very much do sales. I love sales. I think it'll be very hard for me to leave, all entirely leave doing sales. And I'd also say that I think that because I've always been intimately involved with sales, I've been able to constantly update the sales process, right? So if
Hmm.
I just had salespeople and they were doing their thing, and there wasn't that constant feedback loop of me being the liaison between sales and operations and saying, hey, we got to update this sales pattern. Hey, we got to update this checklist. We got to update this process. I think that things wouldn't have been as smooth as they've been in the growth trajectory that we've been on.
So what was the catalyst of the 4x growth? It's I know you mentioned going national.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some
I
of the things that you implemented that you
Yeah,
did?
I would say that we did implement a couple more software solutions, or we expanded the ones that we had. If there are two, and I'm not saying this was it, but it was certainly building relationships and then creating that network of private owners and
Mm.
that whole model and that whole sales script of how we can basically take a deal anywhere. And okay, we have a claim. We had a claim in Alaska, a couple of months ago. It's like Alaska. We've never done business in Alaska. Okay, let's figure that out. We get, deals in all kinds of very rural areas, very high populated areas. And how do we price things out? How do we there's an art form to it. And because every property is different, we have to kind of be able to do that dance. And so the account managers that we've hired, we know that they're able to do that dance. They themselves understand that they have to sell the owner and be flexible, and there's an art form to it. And I think it is unique. I'm not saying that we're the only ones that are doing it. I'm certainly not saying that, but I
It's
think
very unique.
I think that the way that we do it and the optimizing of the efficiencies and how we've done it and how we're continuing to do that as we grow, I think has been unique.
You mentioned something in our show notes here, which I'm a huge fan of, is Stoicism. You seem to be it comes up several times here in my notes here. How do you feel Stoicism? And I hope people in the audience know what it is, but if they don't know, it's a philosophy from ancient Greece, I think is when
Hmm.
it started. Then the
Yeah.
Romans, and who
Plato,
I would
Marcus
say who
Aurelius.
made it popular would be Marcus Aurelius, and who
Hmm.
made it popular here now today's day and age is definitely
Ryan
Ryan
Holiday. Yeah.
Holiday.
The obstacle is the way.
You read now, you said you were telling me before the show that you read the Daily Stoic on a pretty much daily basis. I
Yeah.
told you that The Obstacle is the Way when my wife had cancer.
Wow.
That book like did it for me, man. It was just exactly what I needed to just like turn, just understanding that this is here. There's a reason for this, and it's just only going to make everything so much better and stronger. And I mean, it couldn't have been further from the truth.
And that doesn't that go back to what I mentioned earlier about, deciding how you're going to interpret the problem, right? How
Hmm.
you're going to interpret the scene. Is this an opportunity for us to become stronger and to come out of this better, or is it just this is it for me?
Yeah, because it's so easy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm perfect. But I realize it is so easy to just be like, just start feeling bad for yourself
Yep.
and just be like, ah, well, maybe I'm not that good enough. Maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe this and that. And on the contrary, all it is I tell people all the time where when things are going really, really well and life hits you in the face, it's just testing you to see if you're actually ready to keep going on that trajectory that
It's a
you are
great way of
actually
looking at it.
going on.
Yeah, it's actually a great way of looking at it. Is like there's no free ride. There's
The
no free
test.
lunch.
Yeah.
And life is about testing you. And so I would say that the Daily Stoic, I had a very good friend of mine that gifted it to me, I think for Christmas of 23.
Hmm.
And so I read every day, one page, which is the whole idea, 366 days out of the year for the leap year. And it's just great. I sit there, I read a page or two, I meditate on it, for 3 to 5 minutes, think about it, kind of develop how my day is going to go. I have a couple of probably 4 or 5 key personal goals that I journal about at least once a week. And then I kind of write out what are those? It's like a weekly journal, kind of talking to myself in my head, but I'm putting it to paper. And then I write out almost like the operating targets to this week. What do I need to do to get closer to that particular goal? So if it's an income number for the company, if it's a number of units or clients or a number of whatever it might be, it's like it's just kind of working back from that goal, right? Little sub targets that kind of work you back. And I think that most people, they create a goal and it's kind of this nebulous, amorphous sort of thing that exists, and it's achievable, and people say, create big goals, but I think that the hard work is in the refinement of the steps.
The problem is people set goals and then they don't ever look at them again.
Yeah.
They write them down once and they're super excited about it, and then they forget that they're even there.
Or I forgot where I heard this, but somebody said the very fact of telling somebody a goal makes you feel, it gives you the pride and almost as if you're closer to achieving that goal, which funny enough, I think it was said in a negative context that that's not a good thing.
Yeah, but it can be a good thing as well.
Exactly. So it's kind of, again, it goes back to the way you interpret it. But I write those goals down and work very, very hard in achieving those goals. But yeah, the Daily Stoic's been a great resource. The Obstacles Away. So I read that when we were pivoting the business and realized, I remember going for long walks in the morning and going like, how am I going to figure this out?
Yeah.
My wife was going through a health condition. And it was just stress to the nines. And I think that was a great inspiration to get out of that.
So we're winding down here. What are some of the goals? What are some of the next steps for Tyler Graves and Ready Stays?
Well, we want to continue to grow to be a national company. And I think more than anything, I think the end goal is that we are considered the primary driver of that. I think that to adjusters, our company, because we bear the risk of those leases and we manage the entire process, if there's any disputes, mediation, issues, I feel like what very often happens is if there is somebody that moves into a property, they run into a stumbling block with the owner, or they can't extend, or there's some issue there, or the owner is unhappy about something, it just gets put back on the adjuster, public adjuster, regular carrier adjuster. And that's not, the adjuster wants to focus on the policy, right? So the whole idea is that if Ready Stays can be that true universal everything, and that we hold the responsibility to the nth degree, I see that's the world that I envision, and that's where I want to take this company. I mean, as it relates to insurance housing.
Have you had the company evaluated? Do you have an idea?
I have not,
okay.
But
I think it's time.
I'm very familiar with obviously our numbers and our margins and where things are at, and I have a vision for that. But yeah, could possibly consider
my mission now.
Like that.
My mission now is to put value over revenue. Is to really try to help business owners understand that whether you want to sell the business or not, a business that can sell is a great business to own.
Yes.
So have an understanding of how much the value is of your business.
Yeah.
Have a goal that you want to get to.
Yeah.
After you achieve that goal and you get to that goal, then you can decide what you want to do there. But if you actually get to that, let's say $10 million valuation, you've built a well-oiled machine.
Well, and
that could run on its own.
Well, so then it's kind of like, then do you want to sell it? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it's funny. I've actually always had that belief, right? Like you should never want to sell a business because you want to get rid of the damn thing.
Sure.
You should never be, this is just so, and that's never the position you want to be in. You always want to be in that position of, look, with this amazing thing that I've created, and I'm an entrepreneur and I want to move on from it. And that is definitely the winning attitude.
80% of your net worth is tied up in your business.
Oh, yeah. Certainly tied up in mine, yeah.
And private equity, let me tell you something. It's not, I don't understand why it has such a bad reputation or whatever it is. But man, for a business owner, you get 2 bites at the apple. They buy a portion of your business. Right. You stay on with a portion. Earnouts. Yep. You grow it again, another 5, 4x, 10x, or whatever it is. You sell it again. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of people that have had 2, 3, 4
bites of the apple.
Yes, pretty nice.
It's a great way of building wealth.
Yes, it is.
It's a great way of building wealth. Yeah, yeah, it's great, man. No, I think it's the right angle.
Cool,
for sure.
Tyler, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Oh,
I always love having you on.
You can always invite me, Vince. Love the chats.
Only the next time I invite you, you have to invite me to your office
first.
Okay,
well, maybe we'll do it in the office.
There we go. That sounds good.
We got some decent sound, barriers and
love
stuff.
Love it. Tyler, thanks so much for coming on, man.
Likewise. Thank you, man.